Leave your comments on the AskReddit sub, and I'll read your answers on the next episode of LWIAR. What unrealistic things in movies annoy the hell out of you? It always irks me when two characters are talking in a car and the driver makes prolonged eye contact with the passenger. What bothers me most about that is when you start wondering if it's part of the plot or if it's just crappy directing. Like whenever the driver looks away for more than a glance, I start expecting the passenger to shriek, "Look out," and point at something. And the trope of them being T-boned by a truck for plot reasons. An IT guy, girl who knows everything about computers, networking, all operating systems, all applications, hacking, programming languages, etc., without consulting Google. I'm hacking the mainframe now. Smacking keyboard sounds. We're in ding sound. They're onto us. Smacking keyboard sound intensifies edit. Another one I have big issues over whispering on comms or to anyone in the server room or in their general area of servers. Your silly blinking lights are fooling no one. What's the easiest and most common description of a server room? Brick. Loud noises. Ron Burgundy. Thanks, Brick. Even better is when they're smacking away while a progress bar is moving, as if that'll make it go faster. Well, he smacks the keyboard, so there's that. The lack of a mouse or pointer really annoys me, on top of the random keyboard hammering. You might as well say he escaped. Get it? Get it? Oh well. When someone throws a grenade into a building and manages to make a nuclear-level explosion out of it. The way frag grenades become huge plumes of fire annoys the crap out of me. Hell, as if the professor actually cares who they are, or in high school cases, like showing up late on your first day would somehow be acceptable. Edit. Alright, clearly my high school experience wasn't quite the same as everyone else's. I offer the defense that my school's administration was largely incompetent at handling serious issues, so they focused on crap like attendance instead to look like they were doing something. That's how I remember it too. But these kids in movies and TV are always walking in like 2 months into the year after they just moved there. Yeah, I was looking for defibrillator use. You don't use a defibrillator to start a heart that isn't beating. You use it to shock a heart that isn't beating properly into beating at a proper rhythm. I've never seen a movie do this right. When I learned this in school I was 13 and I couldn't believe it. I had to look it up. Literally every movie with a defibrillator gets it wrong and people just assume that's how a defibrillator works. Edit. As people have pointed out, I spelled defibrillator wrong 4 times. Autocorrect has failed me today. One time after getting an IV removed as a kid, the nurse told me I had to keep the cotton pad on it or I would spray blood. I was skeptical, so she took the pad off and my arm turned into a squirt gun. Surprised the hell out of 9-year-old me. I mean, I certainly would not expect a 9-year-old child to listen to instructions after telling them something like that. When someone says, "Let me show you," and pick up their conversation 45 minutes later when they arrive. What? They didn't talk about it during the drive? Did they just drive in silence? Tell me. No, you have to see it. Really? Just tell me. No. Quote. Let me show you. Gets in the car. So how far away is this place? About 50 miles. Oh okay. So anything you can tell me about it? I have to show you. Oh okay, cool. So, how long you been doing this job? Grunts and turns on the radio. Hey, I love this song. Rolls up to location with McDonald's bag, both singing with the windows down, parks car and intensity immediately returns. We're here. National treasure always gets me. Nick Cage tells his buddy in the National Archives that he's gonna steal the Declaration of Independence. And then next scene they're sitting at the Lincoln Memorial and his buddy picks up the conversation. Like, what do you mean? Dude, that's like a 20+ minute walk. Did they just walk in silence the whole time or rent scooters? I burst out laughing the last time I watched it. Oh my god, that's so annoying. Especially when there is a misunderstanding which could be solved with one single sentence. But the character is just like, no, quote, it's not like that, quote, no, don't let me, it drives me crazy lol. Happens in many TV shows and movies. Whenever any character says, let me explain, you know immediately that they aren't going to get to explain. when they have just woken up after a long sleep, and they look fresh as a daisy. And they do a fake stretch and immediately get up instead of groaning, picking bits of dry drool off their chin and praying for the sweet release of death. Just me. And then immediately start making out before brushing their teeth. Gross. I liked how in Bridesmaids Annie woke up early to apply makeup, then got back in bed to fake just waking up that way, and don't have an urgent need to pee. Or more infuriating, when they run 17 miles and open a locked door, and the pursuer is on the other side of the door. Like bro, if you know exactly where your prey is heading and you've got Scotty on speed dial to beam you up, just save yourself some effort and go there first instead of running after them. The knocking out itself is unrealistic. There was an SNL skit about this. It was so funny. U2.be edit. The sketch may not be funny for everybody, so let's just say that it's a related response to what the commentator above me said. For some reason I read this as Liam Neeson pictured a totally different scene, then reread your post and actually felt disappointed. Same when they're supposedly moving boxes, but it's obvious the boxes have nothing in them by how easily and blithely they are picked up, danced around and stacked. Just rewatched this the other day. Hilarious, he brought it up. Watch at 2:43. Funny when Elaine laughs and HES like, I really hurt myself, Elaine. Everyone has an awesome house or apartment regardless of their job, unless the character is specifically supposed to be poor. Zoom in on that license plate, on that potato quality photo, video. Wait, there's a reflection in her pupil. Enhance that reflection, and I present to you the killer. Ding. They use tiger sounds for a lion. They do this in some nature documentaries as well, and it infuriates me, cause if you're making something educational, at least make it realistic. I suppose a related one would be use of red-tailed hawk calls for bald eagles to make them sound more intimidating. I didn't believe it. en.wikipedia.org usually silent, but gives a shrill, sibilant whistle during copulation, and thin squealing calls both at nests and carcasses. Sneaky little hobbitses. Wicked. Tricksy. False. I've said this before in another post. Person 1, hey, did you hear about X? Person 2, no, I didn't. What is it? Person 1, it's all over the news. Let me show you. Proceeds to turn on TV to exact news channel talking about X. Edit. Oh my dear God. 11,000 freaking upvotes and 3 awards. Thank you guys so much. Arrested Development. Hey, turn on the TV. For those of you just joining us, here's a complete recap of the story we just covered on air. That's sad. Do you know if other channels, like TV show channels, interrupted their programs to cover the event? 9/11 took over the airways for weeks. I realized this semester that some of the college kids in teaching weren't alive for 9/11, which struck me in 2 different ways. First off, frick, I'm getting old. Second, they have no idea how traumatic it was for the country. Most people didn't have high-speed internet at the time. No smartphones, no instant notifications. Someone called you, and you turned on the TV and were struck with absolute horror. It was entirely unexpected, and it just kept getting worse and worse. I remember having a crying session every day for several days, and everybody else did the same. The country was in shock and mourning the loss of life and a sense of innocence. Terrorist attacks were supposed to happen elsewhere. Oklahoma City had been a thing, but that was crazy militia folk. And 9/11 killed nearly 20 times as many people. In my lifetime, we were never more united than we were in our grief. Bush's approval rating jumped to 92% as he took on the role of mourner-in-chief. That unity wasn't always a good thing. In our fear, anger, and sadness we did some bad things. We invaded countries, passed anti-American laws, and vilified people who didn't deserve it. Looking back, it's easy to criticize the Patriot Act and the wars in Afghanistan and Iraq. But at the time most of us were scared and lashing out at the world to feel some sense of security and control. I really can't think of anything that could happen now to cause that level of shock for us. Objectively worse things can and have occurred since then, but the impact of that moment would be hard to top. After those towers fell, nothing seemed impossible anymore. We're still dealing with the fallout. We're a country experiencing PTSD. And we're hurting everyone else in the process. Every political and diplomatic action taken in the US since then has been tainted by 9/11. It led to the increased surveillance state, the wars, the extreme polarization of politics, the surge in nationalism, economic rise and falls, and more. No single event in modern history has come close to having the impact of 9/11. Yes, it took over all the TV stations. And then everything else. It still dominates our lives more than people realize. Maybe my favorite example of this ever is in The Patriot, where the evil British guy shoots a man off his horse probably 50 yards away with a flintlock pistol. Own a musket for home defense. Since that's what the founding fathers intended. 4 ruffians break into my house. What the devil? As I grab my powdered wig and Kentucky rifle, blow a golf ball-sized hole through the first man. He's dead on the spot. Draw my pistol on the second man. Miss him entirely because its smoothbore and nails the neighbor's dog. I have to resort to the cannon mounted at the top of the stairs loaded with grape shot. Tally-ho lads, the grape shot shreds 2 men in the blast. The sound and extra shrapnel set off car alarms, fix bayonet and charge the last terrified rapscallion. He bleeds out waiting on the police to arrive since triangular bayonet wounds are impossible to stitch up, just as the founding fathers intended. While running in the rain with blanks and a frictan, there is always a free parking slot right in front of the building that they're going to. I feel your rage, brother. Grown adults playing kids. One of the funniest examples of this is in the musical Hamilton, where Eliza says, "Your son is 9 years old today," and in comes Anthony Ramos, a 24-year-old. Check it here around 1:05. I think it's acceptable for on-stage casting, since it's always live and pretty demanding. And I somehow consider that to be a traditional practice for theater. You know, since times of classical masks. In TV series, on the other hand, I'd expect a kid. The way people pick open locks. Nothing about it looks real, mostly. Click out of 1. 2 is binding. Women being chased always trip and fall. In her defense, it's pretty easy to run in heels if you need to. You just balance on the front part of your foot rather than the heel. Obviously it's uncomfortable, but better than being eaten by a T-Rex. If blood is needed for some reason, don't make a little cut someone convenient. Slit your entire palm, which would cause so much pain, and then shrug it off when the action starts. They could just prick their finger. Fingers bleed for a ridiculously long time if you don't cover up the injury. The Winchesters would like a word on how necessary it is to almost chop off an entire appendage for a drop or 2 pf blood. I think it was a joke from the writers. CUS, it really was ridiculous AF. The regular occurrence of people ending calls abruptly without saying goodbye in any form. Sorry for the multi-comment, but connected to your concept. They should throw in an awkward silence directly followed by both people starting to speak and then saying, "Oh, sorry, no, you go," to each other. Cold sweat smile. Having a conversation with the back facing the person you're having a conversation with. You've been avoiding me, Lemon. Gar, how do you do that? To be perfectly honest, the first few people I did that to were not you. But here we are. To be perfectly honest, I didn't find a clip either and just went with what felt right. But here we are. A lot of the deaths in horror movies. There's some where someone just gets knocked out and they're somehow dead. Thanks for watching LWIAR. The best of recent r/AskReddit submissions and comments. If you like this video, check out LWIAR too. And don't forget to like and subscribe. Bye.